Let's go watch it in 2D. No, let's go watch it in 3D. But if we watch it in 3D, then is it worth the cost?
My name is Peter Parker. I'm pretty sure you know the rest. But this isn't about me. Not anymore.
Spider-Man swings in once a day, zip zap zop in his little mask and answers to no one. I love you, Miles.
Yeah, I know that.
You gotta say I love you back.
Dad, are you serious?
I want to hear it.
Look at this place.
Dad, I love you.
Dad, I love you.
That's a copy.
Hello. This is Adolph Vega with...
Jake Jarvis.
And today we're doing a spoiler cast for Spider-Man Into the Spiderverse.
Warning, this podcast contains spoilers. Warning, this podcast contains spoilers.
If you have not seen this movie, this is your last warning. This will have full-on spoilers from beginning to end. So if you pause it now and watch the movie, and if you don't care about spoilers, then continue on.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen it, why are you listening to this? Go see it, come back. We'll be here.
Go see it because it's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. One of the best movies of 2018. Easily the best animated movie of 2018. It really hit it out of the park.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a really good one. In fact, you'll sit there scratching your head wondering, how did Sony do this?
Well, I'll give it all to Lord and Miller, the writers and directors of this, because they made the Lego movie something that I'd never thought would be funny or good, and they made it awesome. And you know, this is awesome too. They just have great talent for writing and directing, and I have no idea why Disney not let them finish Han Solo movie, because I think I'm desperate to see what that would have been like. You know? Yeah.
Release the Lord and Miller cut.
Which I don't think exists, but it is what it is.
Yeah, well, the Zack Snyder cut doesn't exist either of Justice League, but, you know.
So onto this movie. So Miles Morales, you see him like go into a new school, and his dad, a police officer, taking him to that new school, where, you know, he meets a girl, and we later find out who that girl is. And, you know, he stumbles and he wants to hang out with his uncle, who is a very different character from his police officer father. And his uncle shows him, you know, where this like really cool area is so he can spray paint. You know, he has that rebellious kind of, side to him. He wants to spray paint and do art and street art. And that's where the spider bites him. But the spider is glitching, which I was like, that's kind of a weird thing, but it's glitching. And then what happens after that, Jake?
Miles Morales gets bit, and he starts developing spider abilities. Of course, this is when they were spray painting his. That was how he was handling his, supposed to be writing a paper on Dickens' Great Expectations. So he spray paints a Great Expectations logo. He gets bit by the spider with the 42 on it, which happens to be Jackie Robinson's jersey from his baseball, when he was a baseball player. And then he starts sticking to everything, and it's hilarious.
And he started to read Spider-Man comics because, this is what happened to Spider-Man. This is what happened to Peter Parker.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, let me go back to get the spider and see what's going on. And then that leads to him meeting up with Peter Parker, which was actually having a battle with a gigantic Green Goblin.
Mm-hmm.
And Spider, and then we have right there the character of Kingpin, who eventually kills Peter Parker.
Yeah, and this Spider-Man is voiced by Chris Pine, and his backstory is very similar to the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies.
Yeah, I loved how they referenced that trilogy, and like you know what the game was when they're kind of doing like a flashback and like explaining who the Spider-Man were, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that Spider-Man gives Miles a MacGuffin, which is a flash drive to stop, or I guess it's a key. I don't know. Um,
Mm-hmm.
they call it a goober, I think it is, right?
Yeah, a goober.
And it's supposed to plug into the machine and be like the failsafe to stop it, because Kingpin is building a machine that is making entrances to other dimensions.
Mm-hmm. Because in this reality, his wife and child are dead, and he wants to retrieve them from. I guess he watched too much Fringe, so he wants to bring back his wife and child from another dimension into this dimension. Of course, he's oblivious to the fact that it's tearing reality apart.
And this is actually a really sympathetic kind of storyline for him. But you understand he deserved their kid them there to die, because Spider-Man was helping, and he was out to get him, and it was not Spider-Man's fault. It was his fault, but he refuses to acknowledge that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I thought that the character design of Kingpin, he was a little too big for me. I thought it was just like he seemed a little bit odd compared to everyone else in the movie, size-wise.
It was the it was the Bill Sinkovich's version from the Max series. But I mean, in a movie that has Spider-Ham, to me, I didn't have a problem with it.
So, we eventually learn that the girl that Peter is kind of flirting with in school is Spider-Gwen.
And he also stuck to her hair, so she had to get half of her head shaved.
And Spider-Gwen, then we get to see another Peter Parker come around, because Miles.
Yeah, Peter B. Parker. And we know that B stands for Benjamin, even though they never say.
Oh, I didn't never assume that.
Oh, what else would he be named after? His Uncle Ben.
I don't know. Beatrice or something? I don't know. Ben?
I figured it was Benjamin.
I guess it's a kind of a cute way of also having, this is Spider-Man B, and that was Spider-Man A.
So you could differentiate. Yeah, and this one is voiced by Jake Johnson.
And he sees him because, he's visiting the grave of his universe's Spider-Man, Peter Parker. And, he visits him, and he gets freaked out and knocks him out, and has this awesome chase scene where, he's dragging his body around.
Mm-hmm.
He's just unconscious. He's not dead. But eventually he figures out, hey, I'm from another universe. We're trying to figure this out. And then you get to see that you go back to Aunt May's house, and they're like, yeah, let me show you around. That we have, I know of other Spider-Verses, and she has a secret lair in her thing, and there's other Spider people there, which is Spider-Man Noir, and the future Spider-Man, and Spider-Ham.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Lily Tomlin voices Aunt May, and she knocks it out of the park. If Sony said, oh, we want to do an Aunt May movie, now I'm not going to freak out about it. Now I'm going to go, that might be a good idea. Because I was really impressed with Lily Tomlin's performance in this. She's like the best Aunt May ever.
And, this Spider-Man Miles Morales is literally just new to this. So he's not sure if he wants to be a hero. He kind of does, and he gets like the costume, and then you get a...
Yeah, I'll tell you about... There's some details about the costume I haven't heard anybody pick up on yet. Okay, he goes to a costume shop and he buys the costume from Stan Lee. It's a great cameo. And he buys, it's basically the old Ben Cooper Spider-Man costume, which came out in the 50s. And it also became Yeah, but when it came out in the 50s, it was done in yellow and black. When Marvel did the Spider-Man, they did a deal with Ben Cooper, and then Ben Cooper, starting in was it 64, 65, started putting it out in red and blue with a little yellow for then eventually it became blue and red. And I know this because as a kid I had this costume more than once growing up, going out trick-or-treating as Spider-Man. So that's what Miles Morales' outfit basically is. It's a tribute to the old Ben Cooper Spider-Man suit that you would buy. It would be, you'd tie it around, you'd step into it and tie it around. It would be made out of this material that was as much plastic as it was material, and have a mask you put on.
So then we get back to them trying to get all together, and you get to have you meet all the other Spider people that's crossed over to this universe. Spider-Man Noir, which I love. Nicolas Cage, he's a treasure.
Yeah, I want a Spider-Man Noir movie now.
And Spider-Pig, which man, that's such a weird thing to have, but they played him perfectly.
They really captured the comic book with him. God, the comedian who voiced him, his name is escaping me, but just chuckled. He just embodied everything I've always thought of this spectacular Peter Porker. I mean, just awesome. In fact, the only thing this movie was missing was the Simpsons Spider-Pig.
I would have loved if, as a post-credit scene or a mid-credit scene, you see Tom Holland or any other live-action one interact with these cartoons, and then that he just freaks out.
Yeah, that would have been awesome.
Or, if Sony wants to be clever, they could have played with the Venom and have, Venom come in here.
Yeah.
Because, for God's sakes, they had a post-credit scene for this movie in Venom. So that would have been a great kind of, getting everything connected, and have a post-credit scene with, Spider-Verse coming to, animated version coming to Venom, and you see him like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
So we try to fix the goober, and you try to get back in there, and then we have another action scene where the Prowler attacks, and we learn that the Prowler is actually the uncle of Miles, which I did not see coming.
Well, if you read the comics, you would. Danny Glover plays the character in Homecoming, so we have no idea what's going to happen with the Prowler, or if he's even going to become the Prowler in the MCU. But in this universe, the Prowler dies, breaking Miles's heart.
Yeah, and I wasn't expecting that either, because Kingpin kills him because he's not killing Spider-Man, Which, awesome to see that. And, it's because Kingpin is that evil. He did,
Yeah. And then there's a heartbreaking scene where Miles is he's got crap. He's trying to recover from this attack, and his dad comes to see him and to tell him about his uncle. And his dad is reading the scene as he's mad at him and won't talk to him. But Miles is he doesn't want his dad to find out he's Spider-Man, and his mouth is covered with webbing. So they have a heartbreaking talk. That's very moving. It's going to hit you in the feels.
Yeah, the dad is fantastic here. The mom actually is barely has one or two words in the movie, and you barely know anything about her besides she's a nurse and she loves her son, and that's it. But the dad is fantastic in this.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
and eventually, Miles gains the strength he needs to, help out the others, and that's when you have a really epic scene with going back to try to stop the machine, and like the machine kind of works and kind of brings back like a shadow of the family, and but they're not happy being back.
Oh, and there's another little detail I think we should mention. The Doc Ock of this universe in this movie.
Oh yeah, as a woman, I love that, and it's different.
Olivia, and I love it when when her and Aunt May meet, and she calls her Liv. Cause in the comics, Aunt May almost married Doc Ock.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were engaged. So, and Doc Ock at the time, Doc Ock knew who Peter was, and Peter knew who he was, and it was hilarious. The peace between to keep Aunt May happy.
And she looked different from Dr. Octo that we know. She had the plastic arms, kind of, so then not metal arms, and it was a fun twist. I didn't expect that to happen either. That's
Yeah, it was a delight.
And then we see them all go back. He gets the goober into the slot, and everyone goes back to where they need to be. And Kingpin is arrested but not killed off.
Mm-hmm.
And it ends with like Spider-Man hugging the dad, and I'm not sure if the dad got it or if we get it, but it was really sweet.
Mm-hmm.
And we get a credit scene. I forget the mid-credit scene, but I remember the post-credit scene. Do you remember the mid-credit scene?
It was the Spider-Man Christmas album, and we hear Chris Pine singing Spider Bells.
Oh yeah, and then
a tribute to Stan Lee and Steve Ditko.
And then the post-credit scene is like, I guess things getting continued with another universe, and then
we have Spider-Man 2099, voiced by Oscar Isaac, and he's going to go back to the original Spider-Man. So he pops into the 66 cartoon universe, doing a parody of the Spider-Man pointing at himself meme.
And it's hilarious. It kind of takes a little bit too long, but I loved it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I grew up watching the original show, so I was in hysterics. As good as that was, I still think Chris Pine singing, I want that Christmas album now!
I actually think they did release it, so...
Well, there's like an Electric Company kind of thingamabob album from years ago, but it's not any good.
So that's basically the whole story. I really loved how funny it was, how touching it was. Everything worked.
Mm-hmm.
The multiple spider people, like you said before, each of them could be a movie. And, I don't know if I would see Spider-Man. I did like him a lot, but I don't know if a full hour on of Spider-Ham is enough. It's just too much for that. But I definitely want to see a Spider-Gwen or even Spider-Noir. Or even that futuristic spider robot thing, girl one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Penny Parker. I wonder if she's supposed to be the daughter of the Japanese Spider-Man. From the TV show with the giant mech, Spider-Man.
Yeah, I actually learned about that recently, and that's a deep cut.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there's a lot of deep cuts, and there's enough Easter eggs in here. I know people have already seen this thing 3 times, and they said every time they find a dozen more Easter eggs. I mean, there's not just Spider-Man and Marvel references. There's references to 21 Jump Street, Law and Order, all sorts of stuff in there.
And it's great to see Kingpin as a Spider-Man villain. This is something that comics have done thousands of times, and the movie universes are afraid to do for some reason.
They don't think he's cinematic enough.
And
so they give him to Daredevil. Whatever.
Well, it's fine because, Daredevil and Spider-Man do play a lot together in the comics, but not in the movies or TV.
Well, that may happen now that Daredevil's been unceremoniously dumped from Netflix.
That Fisk Kingpin in Daredevil is amazing. So I would love to see that in Spider-Man. I know it's different. He's a serious actor or whatever, but they could make that work.
Yeah, they could as soon as whatever agreement Netflix has, because they may have like a 2-year cooling off thing in their contract that Marvel can't use them for 2 years. But we can wait. We've waited this long.
Now, I also really liked how the different spider people had different powers.
Mm-hmm.
They're all similar, but different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Miles, when he gets scared, turns invisible.
And none of them had organic web shooters, which I was kind of hoping that one of them would, but
they're probably saving that for Silk.
Because I knew that that's part of the comics to have the mechanical one, but I actually really liked the Raimi trilogy to have the organic. They made it make sense,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, really did. But like I said, I think they're saving it for Cindy Moon when they, because Sony's said that they're planning on doing an all-girl Spider-Verse team-up movie with Silk, Spider-Gwen, and the ultimate version of Jessica Drew, who's a clone of Peter Parker. So I guess she would be Spider-Girl or Spider-Woman. Yeah, I guess she'd be Spider-Woman. And then there's several other female spider characters like Madam Web. Oh, I would love to see Madam Web. In fact, I hope they decide to tweak her a little bit and make her kind of the Aunt Maeve Spider-Man. That would be awesome.
So yeah, I just thought it hit everything perfectly. It hit everything on full cylinders. I really felt like they had a great script, had great actors, had great animation. At first, I was thought it was kind of the animation of the characters walking around felt a little janky, but maybe I got used to it. Maybe the projector got used to fixed itself. I don't know, but it
looked like the world was starting to glitch. Because you notice as they got more and more towards the end, it got worse and worse. So I think this is a subtle way to show that the universe is coming apart.
And I did like that they had a caveat where they had, the spider that glitched, that bit Miles, it was from another universe. So, the glitching, they had an explanation to why they couldn't just stay there, hang out. They wanted to go back home, and they had to because it was painful for them to live in another person's universe for very long.
Mm-hmm.
Very clever, very smart stuff here.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I really had no problems with this movie at all. I thought it was so funny. I loved how they did like a quick cut of like the origin and like wrapped it up in like 10 seconds of each Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that Spider-Noir is just black and white is just awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they really improved him from the comic books. They went with Spider. Yeah, there's a pulp character called the Spider. It looks like they took a lot of inspiration from him for this version. And Nicolas Cage just sold it. Nicolas Cage is probably the only actor on Earth who could hold a Rubik's Cube and make it interesting and exciting.
And I loved how they had that reference. And like when you go back to his universe, that was like the most craziest thing ever because it was, it shouldn't exist, but it does exist in their universe.
And so he introduced color to his universe.
It's just wonderful. Everything about this is just perfect in every way, and it's easily a 10 out of 10 for me. You agree, right?
Of course, 10 out of 10. Yeah, I'm handing out 10s like crazy this this month. That's because the movies are living up to it.
All right. You got anything else?
No, I think we just about covered Into the Spider-Verse.
All right. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.
All right, before this podcast ends, I want to give a thank you to my patrons. Right now, we have one patron, which is David from Spain, and I want to thank you for your financial support. All right, so that's going to be it for this podcast.
We now have a Patreon, and the link is in the description. Thanks for watching.
And we are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, a little bit everywhere. Just look for us, 3D or 2D. And of course, review us on iTunes. And if you want to write us a letter, our email address is email3dortwo d@gmail.com. So that's going to be it. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye, everyone.